Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Soccer Podcast, Australia's #1 soccer talk show. My name is Shannon, and for this episode, I'm joined by Alex Smith, and we're talking, does football need the VAR? Alex, welcome to the Soccer Podcast.
Cheers, Shannon. In honor of our VAR debate, I've got an old Newcastle Jets top on. Considering they were on the wrong side of the VAR for the grand final last year. So,
okay, so we know your thoughts already. You've given us a bit of a foreshadowing of what's to come in terms of your opinion on the VAR. But Alex, the VAR, it's something that has divided opinion. But it is being used obviously now in the A-League. It's used in Italy, Germany, France. They're introducing it next season in the Premier League as well as for the Champions League as well. But first of all, before we get into the big debate, are you an advocate or not of the VAR?
No, I don't. I don't think it has a place in our game. I think it's a travesty, and should be removed as soon as possible.
Okay, well, I disagree with you. We seem to disagree on so much, but that's what makes it so beautiful, this show. Can you imagine, as I said in the last episode in the Ronaldo-Messi debate, if we just agreed on everything, there'd be nothing at all to talk about. So
we'd just be agreeing the whole time.
Exactly. So I'm happy we disagree. But talk me through some of your reasons, or at least give me one, and then I'll have a return of reply as to what it is about the VAR that you just don't see it has a place in football.
I'm obviously very old school and a bit of a traditionalist, and I just think that the modern day people's needs to have to be able to blame someone has led to this hysteria where we have to get everything right, and it has to, you have to hold someone accountable. So the biggest reason for me, other than they never get it right anyway, is that dealing with the referee's decisions, that's part of football. It always has been, and being able to deal with referees' decisions is part of the game, and it makes players better. So that would be one of my reasons.
I see where you're going. I mean, you're old school. You think it's for the referee, who's a human being. He's not technology. You're for him making the decision rather than technology. But you don't think, with how far we've come now, with the advent of modern technology, that we should be using and implementing these technologies to improve the game?
Well, not if you're going to sit around and wait for a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I mean, that's not football. Football is a continuous thing. It keeps going. Okay, granted, some people time waste quite a bit, and that gets on my nerves as well. But this is something that, that the governing body's bringing in. And I'm not even going to talk about the fact that they don't get it right most of the time. I mean, that's, with the benefit of instant replay, slow motion, all that sort of stuff, they still don't get it right. So, barring all that, I don't think it's just not football. And I don't think we need it. I don't think the game needs it. That's part of football. That's part of what makes it great, is that people, the ref makes a bad decision, people yell at the ref, and then, it's part of the game.
That human element, that's what you're talking about. Where I do agree with you on the VAR and what you're saying is that when it comes to some of these decisions in the A-League, especially last season, so, what makes it terrible for when I'm watching is what I see is that we've got this technology which is supposed to be there to assist the referees. We're still ending up making the wrong decisions. And what you also find is, if the referee does make a decision, he then goes and checks the video replay, watches it, because he's a human being. He doesn't want to admit the fact that he's wrong once he's seen it on the replay as well. So these are the issues that we are experiencing, and we're still kind of dealing with as we adjust to this issue. So I completely agree with you in that respect. But you also mentioned, Alex, the amount of time that it takes, and possibly breaking the rhythm. But the way I see it now, I think I don't think it is breaking the rhythm of the game. I mean, sometimes, yes, it can. But let's say, putting that aside for a second, let's say we didn't have the VAR, we'd still have about a minute waiting time with the players huddling around each other, questioning the referee. Was it a goal? Was it not? Was it offside? So where I'm saying that time gets spent, waiting for the VAR to make a ruling or a decision. If we didn't have the VAR, that would happen anyway. With a penalty call, the players gathering, huddling around the ref, asking him, "Ref, what's going on here?"
Yeah, I mean, maybe if it's a penalty that's been called, but you're not gonna change it. If the ref doesn't make a call, then play continues, and people have got to go from complaining to switching on straight away. I don't see the need. I don't see the need for it. Goal line technology, it's great. It's pretty irrefutable. It crosses the line or it doesn't. Referee gets a little beep on his watch. Goal, no goal. Blows the whistle for a goal. Keeps playing if he doesn't. So it's seamless. Doesn't affect the game at all. We get the right decision every time. But VAR, it's people start looking for things that aren't even there, and especially here in Australia, the refs' football knowledge is not like it is in Europe. So they end up making calls that just aren't the right calls, even with the benefit of slow motion replay. So even in Europe, I don't think the game needs it. I really don't. I think if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
See, where I stand on it as well is I agree with you. I think in the A-League, especially last season, it was used, the VAR, for just about everything and anything. It was too much. I am an advocate of the VAR. We'll get into some more reasons as to why I think that as well. But one of the things that we can't be doing if we are to keep the VAR, and it doesn't look like the VAR is going anywhere. It's very much here to stay with all the leagues that I mentioned it being used, and now in the Premier League. Where they've kind of trialled it out in some so-called, I would say, lesser leagues, and all in preparation for the best league in the world next season. But we cannot be overusing the VAR. It was overused far too much last season in the A-League, for example, for just about anything, penalties, offsides, was it a yellow, was it a red? It's just too much. I think the VAR has to be kind of limited to the certain extent that, only for certain things. Was it a penalty? And of course, when it comes to VAR, the rule anyway is, was it a clear and obvious error? Even last night's game, I think, VAR check you see on the screen coming up, but you've got to think back, was that a clear and obvious error? Why are the refs sitting in the box checking it? There wasn't an event last night, in my opinion anyway, where you could say clear and obvious error. And I'm obviously talking about last night, Mariners versus Melbourne City.
Yeah. And I mean, I just can't figure out. I mean, obviously you say, you're an advocate for it, but, obviously delivered the correct way. But I just can't see who wants it. I just, I've said this before, the fans don't think they want it. A majority. I don't think the media wants it because they just smash it all the time. The refs, I don't even think want it. I've spoken to quite a few refs. Refs that ref in the A-League, and they don't want it. The players hate it. The coaches don't like it either. So I don't know who or why it's still around. And another thing from a player's point of view is that, all refs are different. So, you can have, Chris Beath on the pitch and someone like Alex King up in the VAR box. Two completely different refs. Kingy tends to let things go a bit, and tends to let a few things go. And whereas Chris Beath, he's pretty by the book and likes to call every single foul that he sees and all this sort of stuff. So if Alex King is in the box and he says, no, we need to have a look at that because for whatever reason he thinks that's a foul, and then Chris Beath has a look at it and says, no, I don't think that's so you end up with different decisions anyway. So I don't see. We're in the same position we were before it. I don't
So
get it.
yeah, so you're saying the inconsistency from one ref to another. So that's one issue. The reason I want to get into the reason why I'm an advocate for it. One of the reasons is justice for the players. I know this is a kind of a counter argument to what you were saying. None of the players want it. The referees don't like it. But what about justice for the players? If you get yourself in your attacking team and you get yourself in those positions to score a goal, to earn yourself a penalty, then you want the right decision ultimately being made, don't you, as a player?
Yeah, but 8, 9 times out of 10, you get the right decision. So for me, that's good enough. I mean, and as a player, I'd never, if a bad call's made, you just get on with it. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. It's done. It's finished. The last thing I want to do is stop for 2 minutes while a guy goes over to a video, has a look, comes back, and then he says, "Nah, it wasn't a foul." And we're the same. Like the whole thing. I don't get it. There's an unwritten rule in football that you get a call one day and you don't get a call the next day. And it's scary how often that actually works itself out.
Yeah,
So
it evens itself up over the season, for certain teams. I see where you're coming from, but also talking about justice for the players and making that right decision. I think it worked well in the World Cup. I mean, especially for an example, was in the World Cup final between France and Croatia. That was clearly, I can't remember exactly what happened, but, the penalty was given for France. We might not have had that decision. Justice wouldn't have been served for France had that VAR not been in place. So I think, justice for the players would definitely be one thing. You talked about 9 times out of 10, but how about let's get these decisions, right as many times as we can. Another thing is that, in the A-League, it's certainly been improving. I know last season I spoke already about how it was a real struggle. But, I mean, would you not agree with me, Alex, that over time you've been a little bit more impressed over the weeks with what the VAR has been doing?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it just feels like a disaster waiting to happen. It just feels like, it's just like a ticking time bomb till the next instant we have where, someone barely taps someone with their arm and they fall over and it's a penalty, and they have a look at it and they uphold the penalty. So, I don't. It's been silent for 3-4 weeks now, but it's. I just think it's only a matter of time before it happens again, and there's just no need for it.
And obviously, as well, another thing is, obviously you touched on this point. You feel like in the A-League, the refs aren't up to it. It's all about the quality of the refs as well in terms of making use and their knowledge of the technology. In the Premier League, we're the best leagues in the world, the best referees in the world, as well as the Champions League, where the refs officiate as well. So those refs definitely have a good knowledge, working knowledge and understanding of the VAR. So I think there should be no issues there. There should be absolutely no issues. If it's the right people using it and understanding what the VAR is intended to do, then there should be no issues. I think maybe you're just saying in the A-League it's a little bit too soon at the moment, which I do agree with you. But another point why I'm an advocate, Alex, of the VAR is, let's move away from the A-League for a second. Let's talk about the Premier League. We've got, what about those managers, who are coming under pressure, with teams, struggling, battling for their lives down the bottom of the table. Southampton is a good example. A couple of weeks ago with Mark Hughes, Charlie Austin's goal, I think, was it ruled out or something like that, and he gave that interview after the game about the VAR and what's been happening. But then, it's those kind of decisions that managers are going to have to pay the price ultimately if they're not getting results. Imagine getting a decision that should go your way, but in fact it doesn't because the VAR isn't there. Managers are going to lose their jobs as well.
Yeah, but I mean, everyone loses the job. I mean, that's just life, like, and that's definitely football life. I mean, if it's not one day, it'll be the next day. And one change decision is not going to save a manager's job. Very rarely is one goal or one penalty or one, whatever you want to call it, promotion, relegation, you got a whole nother point there. I'll probably have to agree with you there that, that can be decided by one goal or one penalty or whatever it is. But, people have been losing their jobs in football for years, and they're going to keep losing their jobs. That goes for players and coaches. But just going back to the refs, I just think in the A-League, they just need a little bit more experience. They just need a little bit more practice with it. It'll get to a stage where it's okay, and fairly smooth, but we still don't need it. You don't need it. And even in the EPL, where they've got the best refs in the world, or quote unquote best refs in the world, and they still ref differently. Mike Dean refs differently to all the other guys. So you still get in different interpretations of a foul or not a foul. So you're in the same place that you started with. It's just adding more fuel and more opportunity for people to go, no, it's you're wrong. You look at the video and you still got it wrong. So I don't get it.
And the last thing I want to say why I support it is, what about when you're, Manchester United or a Chelsea, one of the bigger clubs? I think the VAR assists some of the smaller teams, like maybe Huddersfield or, any of the smaller teams, really. When you're playing at Manchester United, Old Trafford, and you've got Howard Webb, refereeing when he was a ref, refereeing the games, and all the crowd, the Man United faithful and the crowd wanting, him to award a penalty. He's got that pressure, obviously, with the crowd in the background. Ref, penalty. And he maybe feels a little bit of pressure to give it against the bigger team. But I think the VAR steps in and cuts that out by holding the refs accountable to their decision making.
Yeah, I mean, quite possibly. But again, he might look at it and think, no, it's not a pen, or yes, it is, and then someone else, depending on who's reffing that particular game, like it'll end up with the same thing. I mean, VAR is in place because of money. It's as simple as that. Like, that's the only reason we have it, is because people have to have something to be held accountable. And there's so much money in the game these days. There is just so much money in these days that there is almost a necessity to make sure we get it right, so that these clubs don't lose millions and millions of dollars if they go down and get relegated because of a wrong call. So
the one thing that I do want to kind of finish this discussion on, and obviously you'll have your chance to add it as well, where I tend to think the VAR needs a little bit of work as well, Alex, is obviously with the crowd, to do with the crowd involvement. You've got when you at the stadium, it doesn't matter if you watch Sydney FC or Adelaide United or whoever it is in the Premier League or in La Liga or in Italy, wherever it is, the time that it takes, the one thing I will say causes a little bit of uncertainty with the crowd. The crowd are kind of removed from understanding what is exactly going on when in terms of the ref and obviously the teams as well. There's a little bit of that uncertainty where the crowd would be like, what's going on right now? With the referees checking something, they don't actually fully understand what's going on. So it's that issue to do with crowd involvement is one thing that I would say in terms of the VAR needs a little bit of work.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to become entertainment. You already got, I think, it's McDonald's that sponsor it in Australia. So you got the McDonald's VAR check. And that's not what we're here for. We're here to play football. We're here to watch, two teams do battle and, work really hard, and whatever happens after 95 minutes, that's the result. It's going to become a thing where, whatever's being checked is up on the big screen and everyone's, call me old school, but it's not for me.
No, there's definitely, we definitely agree on some things, Alex. I know with the Messi Ronaldo thing, it was completely, we had our own ideas, but I mean, I do agree with you on some things. I'm sure you agree with me on others. But yeah, talking about what you said about the McDonald's VAR check, I think that's a joke. You've got to drop that. That's terrible. As well as the Caltech Socceroos. I mean, that's shocking as well. Can't they just be the Socceroos? Do they really have to be the Caltech Socceroos? But anyway, all money. But is there anything you want to add on this debate on the VAR? Is there anything?
No, I don't like to. I don't like to go on too long about smashing things. So I'll give it a rest there. I think I've said enough.
Positivity, but in all fairness, it does look like it is here to stay, Alex. So we're just gonna we're gonna have to like it or lump it. It looks like with FIFA, but I do see the benefits in it. So we'll have to wait and see. But everyone, let's hear your comments on Alex and our discussion today. We want to hear your thoughts on the VAR. Are you for it? Are you against it? But Alex, thanks for joining me today for this episode where we discussed does football need the VAR?
No worries, man. It was good fun.
And everyone, just follow our Instagram. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and smash that thumbs up button. From the Soccer Podcast, Australia's #1 soccer talk show. It's goodbye for now.